It's Amanda coming to you from my hotel in Seattle, and unfortunately we got our class cut a little bit short, so I wanted to just show you real quickly how to put this card together. If you were at the retreat, you got all of these parts, and if you were not, I've got a list on the blog so you can see what each of the pieces in the kit were. They all came in a vellum envelope, and I want to just quickly show you what they are and then how we would put this together. So your card base is this circle, and if you can see, there's already an embossed line, and then there's a little tiny slit that we cut. I cut that in advance with a craft knife. We've got our sun, we've got 3 layers of water, and they're each cut with the wave die and a circle die. So it's a 5.5 inch circle, and then I cut a strip with the circle, and then I cut it again with the wave die for each one. And then our sand will layer on top of our sun. You've got a palm tree, and this was cut out of watercolor paper. Our shark was stamped and embossed and then cut out of watercolor paper as well, so you'll want to color those guys in. And then we've got a few decorative pieces. We've got a large flower with the stamen, and then we've got 3 smaller ones and a green leaf. You can add some shading to those when you're coloring these guys. You've also got 2 white circles, a penny, and a white strip, and then a larger yellow circle. So I'm just going to kind of skip ahead here and show you these layers will get attached together. Those 2 will get attached together. After you color the palm tree, he'll get it attached. Those will be flat, glued together. These will be glued together flat. And then for our circle, we've got 1 line already in place there, but in order to give this card enough room to actually rock, we don't want, when our little piece is going to go through here, because we're building a rocker card, and the shark is going to sit on a little pendulum, and if we give this a tight fold, it won't move freely. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in our score pal, and we're going to line this guy up. And I just, because it's a 5.5 inch circle, I already scored it at 2 3/4, but I'm just going to move this over just a smidge, and I'm going to come down right next to that line on either side. And then I'm going to take the point of my scissors, and I'm just going to open this up a little bit. Can you see that? Just a little bit, so that it's got a little more space there. And you don't have to make it really big. If you make it too big, then it'll just kind of fall down there and sit. But we do want to give it a little bit of room to wiggle. Okay? And then we're going to gently fold it, and all 3 of those score lines are helpful. We're going to fold it like a taco. You're going to be tempted to really crease it. Don't. It's a soft fold. Soft taco, soft fold. Okay? Can you see what we've got here? So we want to give it, you can give it a little pinch. And in fact, it's sometimes helpful to squeeze on something sort of thick, like a bone folder. And then that gives you a gap to fold around, or it gives you something to kind of fold. And I'm giving it a little bit of a roll while I'm squeezing here too. Okay, so now we've got a rocker. Let me get this out of the way so you can see a little better. And you see how it's rocking? Just like that. And we've got a taco. Okay, so I took my sample apart, otherwise I would have led with that. And you can see, I just peeled it off the back. So this is what it'll look like when you glue your 3 layers together, glue the flowers on. There is a little bit of dimension between the pink flower and the bottom. The pink flower, when you cut it out, it actually has a loose center part, and in fact in your envelope it might already be floating around separately. If you use a little bit of foam tape to grab it, it'll hold it in place nicely. And I'm not sure if you can see, I just added a little more dark pink and some shading to those flowers too. Okay, so glue those 3 layers together flat, and then we're going to take some foam tape and we're going to put it across the top. I'm going to spin this about right there. We don't want the foam tape to come up above the taco. You see that? So I've got the foam tape below the taco. And you only need this for 2 layers here. So 2 layers of foam tape, and then the rest can be glued flat to the card base. Alright, so that. And then our card, the back of our card, we've got the sun, the sand. You can add a little more brown detail to that if you want. And then I just colored my palm tree. Those 3 layers are all glued flat together. And then I've got some foam tape here so that when we put it together, it will sit behind with a little bit of a cushion. And the sand, that layer is cut with that circle as well. It's a stitched hillside and then the circle, just so that when it's all put together, you have a visual complete circle. And it'll sit like that, and then this will sit here too. And it'll give us a little bit of a gap. Do you see the sandwich there? We've got a gap. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is kind of gently curl it back a little. Just a little, not hard. It's a soft fold there. And the same thing with my wave. Just a soft curl out so that when we stick our shark in there and he's rocking, there's a gap. From the front it looks fine. From the top you can see the gap in here, okay? And that way when the shark is swaying back and forth, he's not going to get caught on the waves, and this part, nothing's going to stand in his way, okay? So now let's talk about the rocker mechanism. The yellow circle is kind of optional. The bottom of our shark is curved, so when we build our pendulum, we've got, somewhere I've got another little piece, which of course I lost. Our pendulum has the penny, 2 white circles, and then that white piece that I've lost that gets sandwiched in between there. Can you see this? And you don't have to, if you're building one of these from scratch, you don't have to cover up your penny, but I just think it's prettier. And so now once you glue these 3 pieces together, yours is going to be longer. That's because you can trim it down and get it exactly where you want. But we're going to stick it in here, and we're going to make sure that this guy can kind of swing freely. So I'm just sort of testing it. And if it's not, if it's catching on there, then put your scissor blade back in there again and give it another little twist so that you can open that up a little bit more. So glue those parts together. And then when you build a rocker card, a lot of times you do want something, if you have something that was not curved at the bottom, you'd want to give it a curved base to sit on. So I'm going to slide that through. Do you see? It's kind of like a bell or a tongue inside a mouth. So we're going to pull it up. Yours will be longer at this point. You can trim it down now. And then we will glue, and I'm just using PVA glue, just a little bit here. And you want to give yourself, I don't know, I've got almost an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch, somewhere in that neighborhood, of the white piece exposed, or I'm sorry, the white piece that is not covered. So maybe it's closer to 1/2 inch. I think it's a little better than that, closer to 3/4. But it's up to you. The longer you make it, the more vigorously it will rock. And then we're gonna make sure, and I'm sorry, gravity makes this hard, but straight up and down it's rocking. So then, and where's my, he's already colored, and you can see he's still got his little yellow circle on there because I took my sample apart. So I am going to go ahead and glue him on. And the reason I chose the yellow is so that when he's sitting against the sun, you won't notice it. Do you see that? It just kind of blends right in, especially when he's sitting on there. If you, and in truth for this, you don't necessarily even need the yellow circle, but if you're making a rocker card with a pendulum, then you want a curved base here. You want it to be able to roll in this gap. So let's go ahead and glue him on. And don't get too close to the bottom. Give him space, because otherwise his sides will hit the edge of your card and then he's not going to rock much. Now I can turn it over, smoosh him down. I like that PVA glue. It gives you a little bit of wiggle time, but it also sets up fairly quickly. And then can you see he's wiggling? I'm sorry, this angle makes it difficult, but he does sway back and forth. Okay. And then we can go ahead and peel up the foam tape for the back of our card. And I'm going to situate him so that that circle is lining up just like this. Smush it down. You can open it up. You're good to go. Remember, we want that to kind of come back a little bit. And you see I've kind of messed that up there. So I'll just fix that. Little trimming never hurt anything, right? There we go. And then the front, I am going to go ahead and add a lot more glue down here. And I'm going to leave that gap there. I want it to gently transition, so I'm not going to try to add glue all the way up there, because then it'll give you a wavy front instead of a smooth transition. So it's okay to leave that gap unglued, okay? Then I'm going to line it up so that we are even, and I'm lining up the bottom first because it gives me that wiggle room with that wet glue. And then I'm going to make sure that we're lined up here, and I can sandwich it down. And then I'm going to go ahead and smush the glue. And I want to fold this out a little bit. Okay. And can you see that? It's pretty cute, right? And I'll take a better picture for you here, but we need to fold this out a little bit more so that when he's sitting here, I'm just going to curl it, okay? So when he's sitting here, nothing is pushing against him. So you're going to work this a little bit in both directions. And don't worry about that, because then when you sit him here, oh, of course, now he wants to fight with me. But then when you sit him here, he can rock. Okay, I'll fold this a little bit more. Okay, I'll give you a better angle for the next part. Okay, so I lied. He wasn't swinging very well before, so I made this a little bit longer. I pulled it off and glued on a longer tab. Okay, so leave yours long, and then he will sway. And then when you put him down, well, now of course he's going to fight with me again. But when you put him down, give it a little squeeze, and then he can sway on the breeze separately, and then as a rocker card. Okay?